My name is Nathan Mott. I'm a multi-season challenger jungler and coach. This is my challenger versus emerald series where I bring on an expert on a particular champion. We look at one of their games in challenger and we compare it to an emerald game. My guest today is Coach Curtis and we're going to be covering Mel. Curtis is a 10 season in a row challenger player. He's also the co-host of a podcast we do together called Broken by Concept. So we're going to be getting really in depth into Mel here. Let's get straight into it. So Curtis, let's start off with Mel builds. So this is your OPGG here we're going to start with. Looks like Blackfire Torch is looking pretty popular. There is a Seraph's first item here. What are we thinking about for Mel's build? What do we go?
Yeah, so this is actually quite controversial. So when I actually made my Mel guide, I basically kind of innovated. I didn't really use anyone for inspiration. I just naturally felt as though Seraphs into Cosmic was my favorite build. Then what happened is that there was recently some AP itemization changes. And so this sort of build here was kind of my favorite, where I would rush Seraphs, go into Cosmic Drive second item. And the thought process behind it is that it's a little bit slower, but you are incredibly hard to kill in mid-game, right? Now, the downside, obviously, is that your damage is lower. Your wave clear is also lower because you don't get the burn effect of the BFT. And yeah, it's very, very durability heavy. Now, in order to make up for the fact that you have a little bit less damage, you need to really push your limits and leverage the Seraph shield. Nowadays, the way I kind of view it is that there's two builds. There is a BFT rush, which is kind of what I've done here, which is less durable. I think this is actually better when you are versing less dive, when you don't really... So if you take a look at the game that I played it in, there's not a ton of dive. They're very kind of a lot of low range. I don't really feel like I need, a ton of durability. I can kind of kite back with good positioning anyway. Now, so there's like the BFT into like Leandris. You could even go BFT into Cosmic Drive. You could do BFT into Horizon Focus. You could even do BFT into Crypt Bloom. It's kind of dependent on what the game demands and what you need. Now, in that game here specifically, if you go back to that 12 and 4 one, I went BFT into Leandris because I was versing... there was just quite a bit of just HP and I wanted to shred through the Ornn. The Sylas also went rower. So I got a lot of value from the Leandris. Now, in a game that maybe there's a bunch of squishier champions, I might go BFT into Cosmic or BFT into Horizons or something like that. So I guess if you're new to Mel, you've got two builds, durability with Seraphs, that sort of build, and you've got a more damage-centric one with that of the BFT. And that's kind of where my head's at. And I think right now, the Mel community is leaning more towards BFT. And if you're going to go Seraphs, you've got to really make sure that you're getting value. Last thing I will say, going down to that Seraphs one, if you scroll down there, Nathan, here, look at that comp. Very low range, dive centric. You got Yone, you got Shaco, you got Camille. They come and Norvis. They're all coming onto me. Yeah. Exactly right. They're the games that you get mega value from going Seraphs.
So do you build Dark Steel every single game?
No, it's kind of one of those things I'll slot in situationally if it's just an awkward amount of gold.
And ability haste boots every single game? I see you
not always.
Sork shoes here. When do you decide?
Yeah,
I showed you your Sork shoes quite a bit actually.
I prefer Sork shoes on Mel because I'm already getting a lot of haste in the build traditionally. But if I'm typically it's a combination of two factors. Just convenient gold. If I'm sitting on 800 gold, sometimes I'll just get the Sorks. But if the ability haste boots are a little bit cheaper. But also if I'm sole AP, so some of those games where I'm going Sorks, I'm basically sole AP, or the enemy I just get a lot of value from going pen. Whereas in games where I kind of not sole AP, then I might be more inclined to go haste.
So if you're starting to learn Mel, do you recommend the Blackfire Torch? Or do you think that you should learn how to play the more defensive survivability one, the slower one, and the Blackfire Torch game?
I would say right now, given the adjustments to AP itemization, I would say right now, probably the BFT into Cosmic Drive would be like a really good starting point. And then as you start to get more familiarity with the champion, then I would probably, something like this, exactly right. And then I would probably weave in the Seraphs build later on.
Okay, so is this the consensus of the Mel community? Let's go look at Lolalytics now and see. So it looks like everyone's pretty much with Blackfire Torch nowadays. Seraphs, that's like the highest. Is that the highest pick rate? Yeah, the highest pick rate here. And
So it's
then
actually quite even,
Leandro's-
right? You got like
Yeah.
Seraphs and Seraphs and BFT there. And then this is where I think right now second item is where there's a lot of controversy. Some people like raw AP with like, as you can see, like a Shadow Flame second item. Leandri's has got a nerf recently, so I don't really think it's that good of a second item anymore. I think a lot of people are just used to the double burn build or something like that. So I'll be honest, Leandri's is just not as good as it used to be. I think Leandri's is now definitively a situational item, which it should be. It should have always been. And then third item, you're just kind of, plugging the holes. I will say one thing I didn't note is the actual skill order. Now, this is interesting. So skill order, when I first started playing Mel, it used to be Qmax. Now, at the moment, you're seeing a lot of new up-and-coming Mels recommend Emax. So I think this is worth talking about. So Emax is actually, if you look at some of the best Mels, like there's that Q-Pick guy. Have you heard of that guy, that Q-Pick guy?
No.
So basically, he's like probably one of the best Mels, and he was the first one I saw that went Emax. I, at the moment, am going between the two. For me personally, I like Emax into lower range matchups and Qmax into higher range matchups. Emax actually gives you slightly better wave clear, and E is just a really good ability to level because you get so much from it. I believe it decreases cooldown, obviously. It increases damage, but increases the root duration as well. So it's actually very, very good if you can get away with going for it. But in higher range scenarios, I'm personally not a fan of it. You can't really go wrong with either, though.
So let's go back now to the third item. I'm curious what people were going third item here. So it's interesting you said Cosmic Drive. That's actually very low pick rate, but it's very high win rate. So people are not sort of catching on to the Cosmic Drive second that you said you're liking. Third item, people looks like it just, getting the classic more AP items. What do you think about Zhonya's on Mal?
It's just overkill, in my opinion.
I think
a lot of the time,
sounds ugly. It looks ugly.
You've already got your W, you've already got your E, and you're already getting somewhat of durability from either your first or second item. So it's usually unnecessary. The item that I'm actually really liking at the moment is they changed the build path for Criploom. So Criploom, it builds out of the double Fiendish Codex. It's a very good item, in my opinion. So I think Criploom is an up and coming. I think you want to be getting Criploom probably third item, in my opinion, most games. So that's fourth item. I reckon third item, it's really good. Second or third. And as you can see, look at the win rate on it. I mean, obviously the sample size is quite small, but I think it's kind of slept on still.
So Blackfire Torch, Cosmic Drive, Crypt Bloom.
Yeah, a lot of haste.
And then what will fourth item typically look like in that build? Will you ever build Zhonya's?
No. I'll just go
even against heavy assassin comps.
Nah, if I was versing a low range comp, like I said, I would go the Seraphs into Cosmic Drive, and then that's more than enough durability. And then I've also got my E and my W.
All right, runes. Are the runes cookie cutter? Do people go this every single game?
Yeah, so I think that, I think Comet is just such a good rune for Mel, because what you got to understand is that when getting a lot of damage on Mel revolves around hitting all of the Qs, the little projectiles of the Q. And so what happens is that you E, they either get slowed or rooted. So then you E and then you Q and then you proc into Comet. And so because they're slowed or rooted, you're also increasing the likelihood of landing the Comet. And there's a lot of ways you can reduce the cooldown of Comet in teamfight. So it's good for lane and it's good for mid game. So always Comet. There are some Mels that will go Axiom Arcanist instead of the Mana Flow. I think it's a bit greedy. I think it's just too slow. I think you really need the mana in the early game. And then Transcendent, Scorch, or Gathering Storm, depending on the matchup and if you really, depends how greedy you want to go. And then, Cookie Cutter, I think you can't go wrong with Legend Hasten to cut down. Some Mels will go Inspo second or something, but I think that's the most common kind of setup like that.
Why do you go attack speed?
Attack speed in mid lane is very important in a lot of matchups because it helps you contest shove. It just manage the wave a lot more, so you don't have to use abilities on the wave. It's just very convenient and helpful for the early lane wave control.
And you never take scaling health. It's always flat health to survive the early levels?
No, it just depends. So I've actually been a flat health goblin. I think a lot of mid laners sleep on flat HP. So basically the way my thought process is, if I am in a fast-paced lane where I know shit's going to go down levels 1 to 6, I really want flat HP. Otherwise, I'll go scaling HP. But I do think that the way I view it is that because I'm building HP in my build, and a lot of the time, if I have a good levels 1 to 6 anyway, that additional HP is not going to make or break it later on anyway. So that's for me personally. That's a personal preference. A lot of Mels will just go scaling HP because they're greedy bastards. But, I think that's just personal preference.
And last question here. I see Mejai's. You don't typically look like you build Mejai's, but you do build it this game. Is this because you're really fed? When will you be building Mejai's? I feel like Mel players will be very scared to build Mejai's, especially when you're telling people not to build Zhonya's.
I actually think Mejai's is really quite good on a champion like Mel because you have so much self-peel potential. And that's so the idea that we'll get when we get into the gameplay that I really want to talk about is Mel, your success with Mel will be made or break by the quality of your threat assessment and the quality of how good you are at utilizing your self-peel. The best Mel players know how to really walk that tightrope, leverage your W for self-peel purposes, and E. And know when to use it offensively or defensively. So I actually think Mejai's is a really great item for a champion like Mel. Because you have that self-peel.
If you're serious about ranked and improving, join our free school community. We've got a climbing masterclass talking about mindset and process, how to build your champion pool, and solo queue tier lists for improving in each rank. Link in description below or head to wtl.lol/school. All right, so some general Mel questions for you here, Curtis. Mel mid versus ADC. What's the best role for Mel? Is it currently just mid lane?
I think at the moment, Mel bot is actually better. And there's one gigantic reason for that. It's not actually to do with lane, it's to do with mid game. Because when, at the moment at a high level, a lot of mages struggle moving into mid game because they can't navigate the side lane overly well. Whereas if you play Mel bot, you're swapping to mid lane and then you're in mid lane for the entirety of the mid game. So I think that Mel bot massively benefits from that. And then I would also say Mel is just very good into lower range champions, and a lot of AD carries are low range. And so, if you think about it, Ezreal's a pretty mid to low range champion. I mean,
Kai'Sa,
most AD carries,
Draven.
Kai'Sa, Draven, a lot of AD carries are just very low range. So I can easily minimize the scale. And then what happens is that they enter a bit of a power trough. Mages typically spike earlier, and then you can actually start running them over, around level 7. So, I think Mel bot's probably a little bit better than Mel mid.
So what's the weaknesses of Mel mid?
I would say it take a while to come online. You're a heavy scaler. Mel is a heavy scaler. You take time. So your early lane's not overly strong. You have high cooldowns, very, very high cooldowns. And your mana costs are also relatively high. So shutting her down early is quite easy. And she also doesn't have any mobility. So her adaptability to early skirmishes is quite rough.
So, big picture, what does a great Mel game look like? Like, what are you trying to do at a high level with Mel mid lane?
Yeah, I like this question. So at a high level, really the way I interpret Mel and the way I like to play Mel is really try to slow down the game and get to my 2 items in level 11. As cheesy as that sounds, very El Clasico. Look, if I can get to level 7 Lost Chapter, obviously I'm going to be strong and start to be a little bit of a bully. But, if I can have a pretty scot-free early game, get to that mid game right at my key spikes, I can really take over team fights, and I can actually just out-skirmish a lot of people. And this game here, I'm versing a lot of low-range champions with the Ornn and with the Graves and with the Sylas. So I can really run over these champions moving into the mid game.
All right, so let's go over a full game here now, Curtis. So what do you think about level 1? Do you think about much, or you just think about how to play your matchup? Do you think about junglers at all here? What do we do level 1 when you look at the tab screen?
Yeah, so first things first, I'm going to mobile mage. I always need to be gauging the amount of threat that the jungler poses onto me. I see a Graves, I see low threat, I'm happy chappy, right? I don't really give a crap about Graves. And then I'm also thinking just Sylas. How do I want to be playing the waves early game? Is this a champion where I probably want to be getting shoved in, or is this a champion where I want to be shoving in at a very high level? So if I'm versing champions like Sylas, I can typically slow build into them and be a little bit of a nuisance. Maybe versus something like Yasuo, I would need to get shoved in and be a little bit more conservative.
All right, so let's see how the lane phase goes versus the Sylas. So where do you specifically run to a certain location in mid lane, just in general? This isn't a Mel thing. Just where do you go out of base? Obviously,
there, our team has terrible level 1, so I just pinged them back. I don't want to invade. So they're all trying to move in. I'm like, what are we doing? Why the hell are we invading with our composition? Our Jax is AFK in base and our Seraphim's going bot. So I just said like, wait, what are we doing? Just ping, and I just literally ping back and just try to defend. I don't want any shenanigans level 1. I just want to defend my level 1 ward and chill.
Taking control there, Curtis. You're pinging back and you're moving with your body language as well. So you're clearly saying, okay, at least if you're going to go in, you're going by yourself. I'm not participating in that. And then now you're defending top side. It looks like just trying to cover, multiple entrances. So a lot of high impact mid game. A lot of people, early game, level 1. A lot of people, I feel like Curtis would just be standing at the tower or AFK base, changing their Spotify playlist, right?
And actually, look at how careful I was, by the way, because Jax was laid out of base. What I was actually scared of was they were walking into they could have easily invaded topside and been already in that jungle. So that's how considerate I am here. And you see when I walk into this topside jungle, I put my body kind of in the corner here. See, I'm just being a little bit, I'm just trying to poke my head around the corner just in case they come through. But then when I saw Jax there, I'm like, okay, should be all good. Just do a double check and then, but I'm still just trying to sit here to make sure that Sylas doesn't get a level 1 ward because I can bully Sylas off level 1. And so you see how late I stay here level 1, literally to push the Sylas off.
So you don't want Sylas to get this ward.
Exactly.
This is actually really helpful for a jungler, by the way. It's a bit annoying to get your wife Raptors watered, so
yeah.
Cool. And I guess this is what happens when you're a ranger to melee rant matchup. Like Sylas literally cannot walk up and ward this. He'll just take too much damage, right?
Yeah, if you're confident in avoiding the E, that's why I leveled up E first as well because E is quite good into a lot of these low range champions. So if Sylas does choose to E onto me, I've got that E to kind of peel back. So look how late I stay here. Sometimes they do a sneaky late level 1 ward. I just wanted to double check, and that's why I stayed there for so long.
Looks like Sylas was just in base changing his Spotify playlist there.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about for this Sylas? So you're just playing around his E? Are you sitting behind minions? Obviously, you said that you want a really stable early game here. So you're thinking about heavy trading? Like, obviously, when he hits minions, you're gonna trade as abusing the ranger to melee matchup.
Yeah, so it's all about playing around Sylas here. So I'm always trying to sit around the minions and use the minions as a bit of a body blocker for those potential E2s. And I'm trying to weave in abilities whenever I can. So as you can see here, what I'm doing is weaving in ability, then auto, Q auto, or E auto. That's kind of what I'm trying to do here while see how, look at my positioning around the minions. So it's making it very annoying for Sylas to kind of go for those E's. And notice how I'm even holding my E. I'm actually trading with my Q here because I'm holding my E for react just in case Sylas were to jump onto me.
Because the moment you have no E, then Sylas, I guess, is there's zero threat on him. He can just go forward. So you're really important to hold E, you're saying.
I like holding it. And now that I've got a bit of a slow build and I want to crash the second wave, so now I can go for a little bit of a shove here. You typically never want the wave stuck in this location. The general premise is that you always want to either crash it, like 2-stack, crash it, and then bring it back out into neutral. You never want the wave stuck at this little moment here. Now, this is my big blunder here of the early lane that I wanted to talk to you about. Now, there's actually a reason I used W then. It wasn't to block the E2. W gives movement speed as well. So what I was trying to do is use my movement speed to get out of range of the E2.
I see.
But then I actually end up reflecting it and then popping right onto tower. So
I've never seen this interaction before, by the way. I've never seen this interaction before. This is hilarious.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, shit. So I just had to blow my flash. I peeled back with my E. Look, it wasn't the end of the world because I was able to take a pretty good trade on the back end. But this actually, you'll see how this next whole sequence is fascinating. My Elise has decided to go for a vertical. Now, I've used a lot of mana. I've used my W, which costs a lot of mana, the cooldown on my W. And look at that. I don't want to move into that play. I have no flash. This is none of my business. My wave's slow building into the Sylas, and this is where a lot of mage players get flamed. Yes. Oh, what's my jungler, my mid laner doing? And I deserve it, but I messed up. I need to suffer the consequences of my early mistake. If I run around the map like a headless chicken and start sacking waves and running around with no flash, no mana, it's not really going to benefit me. So I just don't even bother. I just shove the wave in, get my good quality reset, and then get back on the map. And yes, it's fine. Sylas gets some kills. I'm confident that as a Mel this game, if I can play neat and tidy League of Legends, the game will win itself.
So I guess a big part of your skill set with Mel, especially early, is not compensating if your jungler's doing ridiculous things. Exactly. But, I mean, even if I feel like you had full mana, I feel like what you did still is good. But do you think that you would go to that if you had a lot of mana?
I would hover and pan my camera and see what's going on, yeah. But because I had no mana, no W, no flash, I'm like, I just don't. And my wave was slow building towards Sylas. I just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So that's important. I had to suffer the consequences. This is it. It's like I know that as soon as I made that mistake on the tower, I suffer the consequences. So hands up, you win. Now let's reset the lane a little bit here.
So does Mel have in general mana problems?
The early lane, like pre-first base, yeah, it's a little bit sketchy. Okay, so this whole sequence here, I think, is really worth noting. It's a really terrible W, by the way. So I think that whole sequence is really important. So as you can see, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to stay behind minions here, and then I'm trying to clip him constantly with Qs. But every now and then, right, if he walks up or he uses his abilities on the wave like that, or he's posturing up too aggressively, especially if the wave's in a conservative position, I can weave in an aggressive E on this guy. So all I'm trying to do here is I'm just kind of chilling, keeping the wave in a nice conservative position and neutral state. And if he steps up, which he does here in a moment, he walks up, he uses E, boom. And I notice how I'm weaving in those autos. It's very important. The reason why a lot of Mel players struggle to do damage is they don't weave in those autos, because you get those 3 passive stacks every single time you use an ability.
So if you miss E a lot in lane with Mel, don't expect to win lane. Is that a good principle?
Yeah, if you're versing a low range matchup and you're missing your E, is exactly right. Exactly right. But notice how it's even more the case in this lane, because I'm maxing E. So it's just worth noting. All right, so notice how I'm just trying to take some small wins here. I've used my pots. I'm trying to stabilize the lane. I got to be a little bit careful here because I don't have really good quality vision.
Tricky position.
So the wave crashes, which is great.
That's good.
And notice how I don't have many minions to block abilities, so I'm just really trying to keep my distance here. Okay, look at what I do here with the wave. This is very important. Notice how I'm not just hard shoving. I'm not mindlessly hard shoving. I'm just chilling. I'm letting the wave come out a little bit. A really big mistake you see with mage players and Mel players is they get so addicted to, like, I was going to AoE the wave with my E and Q and constantly hard shove. No, this position here allows me to exert way more pressure onto the Sylas. I can just be a little bit of a bully now.
So you're saying that if you were to hard shove, then he's just allowed to free farm in a tower. But because it's like out here, whatever, you're forcing him to walk up and still hit these minions. Okay, I see. So you don't want to just let
and now it's a win-win scenario.
Just get free. Yeah.
You got to get, one thing as a mid laner, you got to get very comfortable with neutral state. I always say neutral state should be your baseline. If you don't know what to do, just neutral state.
So you're saying just auto attack minions, just relax, and don't hard shove waves randomly.
Yeah, exactly right. Now I go for that E because the mode is getting too big. So notice how I'm trying to AoE it a little bit because I don't want to get shoved in. I want to lane lock this guy. See what I'm trying to do? If I would allow Sylas to build waves too much, he could shove me in. Now I'm just trying to make it awkward for him to get a recall. I've got full control. So now he goes missing. Maybe he's roaming bot. I don't know, or resetting. So I just hard shove.
And in terms of this game here, you're playing quite far. You haven't really had much of a ward. Is this just again because Graves is 0 threat? You're not threatened with Graves at all. And it doesn't seem like I don't know if you're thinking about it in the game.
No, I am. I'm hyper thinking about Graves' location. He showed topside before. Yeah, okay. Exactly right. I'm spending a lot of attention focusing on or thinking about where Graves is.
Okay, so is this your ideal base? Looks like a pretty fat base here. Is this what you want?
Yeah, it's a beautiful base. The reason I like this base is for 2 reasons. It's synced up with my jungler, number 1. But number 2, I had a very convenient amount of gold. It allows me to complete my lost chapter. I've got my refill. It's just a really, really nice base. And I had shoved in the wave, and it was a clean reset window for me.
So if you can get to this point of the game, 60 farms, 70 minutes with these items, you're loving life as Mel. You're in setup to carry this game. It doesn't matter. This starts at 2-0, I think, still from that early game, right? You couldn't care less. It's 2-0.
Yep, don't care. And the reason I don't care specifically is because of the compositions here, guys. So, Mel into a high range composition, it would be very annoying. But Mel into a low range comp like this one, I feel like I can 1v9. I can 1v9 this game. I don't even care what happens anywhere else.
Right, so you're using, I think this is important, the moment this wave is complete, you don't just sit there and wait for the next wave or try and shove it. You're using this opportunity to go ward.
Yeah, exactly right. And just really trying to use my ward window here, get extra information. And
now you can just permanently lean towards bot side.
Yep.
So yeah, you're like ungankable now. From Graves' perspective, it's just absolutely impossible to gank you. So from this level 7 to like 9, 10, what do we think? Are we still, again, your mindset, I guess, is still just getting 1, 2 items, just trying to still stabilize the game? You're not trying to do anything crazy?
Yeah, so now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try and really ramp up my trading a little bit here. This is where I'll really start to focus on taking small win trades. So weaving in those Qs, making this guy constantly slow building waves, ensuring that I have first move to every single play, and just being an absolute nuisance. And the way I love to, my philosophy when it comes to carrying games as a mage like Mel is that it's all about just being relentless, constantly making him sweat for farm. And your goal at a high level here is to create a CS lead and constantly keep eyes on the graves. Look at this. I'm just being annoying. I'm just making it hard for him to last hit. I'm just putting pressure on. I've got good vision. I have first move into the river. And it's just, and what you'll see, if in this sort of a matchup, you should see a really good quality, like a CS gap, start to accrue over time. Okay, so what happened? He caught me off guard here, and I end up really messing up. So I think it's worth just quickly re-going over this trade and talk about some Mel kind of principles here.
Yeah, so you're in an awesome situation right now, right? So how does it go so bad?
Yeah, so let's take a look at this. So what ends up happening is that I try to go for the Q auto, and then I stand too far outside the wave. So he's able to get the E2 onto me. And the awkward thing about Mel W into Sylas is that it's really hard to know. You have to, ideally, you have to try and time your W for Sylas's W. But it's very difficult to do that. So I messed up. I missed the initial W. I didn't want to use my W on his E2 because I don't want to pull back to him. I have no interest in doing that. So now he just gets that trade onto me. And this is the result of poor spacing, not utilizing the minions. And this is Sylas in a nutshell. This is how a lot of assassins work. If it's one misstep, boom, and your lane can completely turn. So
you should have been just behind minions. I mean, it's
just more in the middle.
Just more in the middle. Do not get hit by E2. That's as simple as it is. Because then you can W his W.
Yep. And then he flashed on me, so I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do. So, yeah. So that was me just being a cocky bastard. What I was trying to do there, I was just trying to basically overwhelm his mental stack. And I got punished for it, and I had to burn my flash.
So you got flash and TP, by the way? Is a flash and TP every game?
Oh, I was just going to say, this doesn't matter, though, because I have TP, so I'm not really going to miss any farm. So it literally does not matter here for me. But yes, flash and TP every single game.
That's pretty much all, you have to go that as a mage, right? Basically, so you can function in the mid game with side lanes.
Yep, exactly. So now it's rinse repeat. Really, I'm coming back. My thought process is I'm just trying to find Sylas's recall, just keep him honest. Really important to push them back and make them sweat for their reset. So I'm going to hard shove this in. And basically all I'm trying to do is just now deny a bit of farm. When my trinket comes back up, reestablish my vision, and just keep slowly dragging out that CS lead. And he messed up. He didn't recall. So I've got a lot of control here. Okay, so this is really good ease. Get the root, change it. You follow up on the root with my Q, and then auto.
So how does Mel's ult work? So how does it work? So it's like 100. So it charges up when you hit it with abilities. Yeah, so when you use abilities on people, it charges up. And see how there's a little yellow diamond on the top? What that basically means is that R won't kill him. As soon as that turns red, that means it executes. Ah, I see. So yeah, so I guess it's quite simple. You just don't press it unless it's red.
Yep, exactly right. Mel's R, in my opinion, is a very, very, very complex ultimate in team fights. And I'll get to, when we get to the team fights, it'll make more sense, but it's actually a very, very high skill capability.
So yeah, I guess you can just use it just for chunks and damage as well as executes,
but also the stacks wear off, right? So it's strategic timing in terms of when you want to use it. You got to be very thinking about how long am I going to be in combat, because the more stacks you have, the more damage. So it's a bit of a gamble, you gamble a lot with it.
Will I have another second rotation of abilities is sort of the question you need to ask.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay, so now Sylas is back to full HP, so we're going to have to start chipping away at him again.
Yeah, and something that's really important here is that I'm chilling. I'm cool as a cucumber here. I don't, I'm not stressing. I'm 0-0-0. I'm just farming. I'm so content here. I'm just being a nuisance. I've got really good vision. I know I can pop the hell off in mid game. So it's all about just really staying poised. Notice I'm using those minions to block potential E's, trading beautifully on the back end, weaving in those autos. And this is where you can tell Sylas will slowly start to become very, very annoyed.
Yeah, this looks very hard. Again, it looks like if he can't hit ET on you, he'll never win a trade. So this is a game where you're not just hard shoving. This is another good example. You're just trying to keep the wave in a neutral state here and just keep poking him.
Yep, I'm just making it hard. And so basically my thought process at this stage, I will say the longer the lane goes, the more shove oriented I am. So basically when the lane gets to around 10ish minutes, then I'll start to be a lot more shove oriented.
Lots of auto attacks there. I think a lot of people would miss those 2 auto attacks there, Curtis.
Yep.
Auto attacks, I assume, don't become that important like past like 20 minutes, right? But the first 20 minutes,
they're very important.
They're always important, are they? Okay,
yes, the entire game. They do a lot of damage in team fights.
And why is that? Is that because of how does that work? Why do auto
because every ability you use, you get a stack of your passive,
including auto attacks.
No, so every Q. So look at that. See how I Q there and I get 3 stacks. I E and it gets another 3 stacks. So basically what happens is that in the mid game, that damage just gets higher. So, you know, every auto matters because you're proccing the passive after every ability.
That makes sense.
So you like Q, auto, or EQ, then auto, and then you proc those stacks. And it definitely adds up. So now I'm at BFT. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, we're really, really strong. I'm very powerful. As you can see, I'm farming quite well. And now all I'm thinking, really, my reference point moving into mid game is as long as I'm there for front-to-back team fights, I'm not getting flanked and pincered from multiple angles, then I'm happy. It's all about now keeping it neat and tidy from a positioning and threat assessment perspective.
Is this the best place to control ward as a mid laner?
Well, whether there or the banana bush, I like that. That's better if I'm playing a little bit more aggressive because I can prevent them from warding it.
So more defensive. Assume the banana bush, you mean this one?
That would be a little bit more defensive, yeah.
And why specifically do you ward bot side over top side? Is that just because Dragon's the next objective? You sort of
Dragon's coming up. Dragon was coming up, exactly right. So this guy lends another E onto me, but I'm able to kind of stand my ground and trade on the back end. He gets very cocky, trying to weave in as many autos as possible. I try to R there, even though... Okay, so that's actually very strategic, by the way. The reason I R'd, even though I wouldn't kill, is because I've got BFT. And so I thought with the Comet and the BFT, it would tick him over the edge. You see what I mean?
Yep, that makes sense, yeah. You was so close there. So you actually were trying to kill him there.
But then the redemption comes through and finishes him off.
Good work, Seraphine. MVP. $10 CS per minute here, Curtis. 145 by 10 by 14 minutes. Very clean.
Yeah, it's not overly hard to farm well on Mel if you have a good matchup. It's only in the hard matchups it gets a little bit sketchy.
And hard matchups are more range matchups, is that right?
Higher range matchups, exactly right.
Higher range.
So I get a little bit lucky there. I really greed my flash. What I was just trying to do there is just be annoying and push them off the ward. In hindsight, looking at this again, I think I could have kept my distance a little bit more. And I also rushed my E. That's a really good example of rushing E. I should walk up Q, hold, wait for him to come into me. So yeah, that was just very sloppy ability usage. A good principle I always say as a mage is it's better to overcook than undercook. It's like chicken.
I guess, yeah, make your E's as easy as to hit as possible. Like in lane phase, wait for them to go last hit or literally run at you. Yeah, I see so many really bad Mel E's when I'm playing against Mel. They just rush it and it's just like, oh, there's all your damage. Yeah,
think about like most, I mean, good Aries, they hold their charm. Good Luxes, they're annoying with their binds. It's the exact same premise. And so now level 11, obviously level 11, big spike, you get the level 2 R, you know, that's really, really big. And so the game, as you can see, is 12 to 12, relatively even, but I'm feeling like a god now. You know, I'm feeling very, very invincible. You know, any fight in the river with my team, I feel pretty confident in winning. Okay, so this is a really interesting one. Notice how, like, look how conservative I am with my positioning here. And the Elise like flames me after this. But remember, my mentality is I don't need to be a superhero to win this game. This guy's losing his mind. I'm not compromising my position. I'm not flashing into the backline because I don't care whether I get a kill on Graves. It doesn't bother me. That it's on the enemy to try to go above and beyond to kill me. Like maybe Elise wants me to run and flash onto the Graves and kill the Graves. Sure, I could do that. But why would I? My flash, in my opinion, is more valuable. And whether Elise dies or not doesn't really matter to me. I'm chill. I know I can pop off in the mid game here. So, and I decided, like, how do I get onto Graves? I have no abilities. I've already used my EQ onto the Ornn. I had nothing. So I'd rather just peel, try to protect my Jacks there. You know, it is what it is.
Because you would 100%, even if you kill, you will have to burn flash in that situation.
Yeah, if not die. I mean, I had no EQ. Exactly right. And that's, remember what you asked at the start, what is the weakness of Mel? It's the cooldowns. You got to be very particular. A lot of the time, you're only getting like 2 rotations of abilities sometimes in some of these skirmishes. So you got to be very, very, careful with your ability usage.
Yeah, I mean, you at least dies, but it's still fun. I mean, you always have full control of midwave, right? Keep shoving in. It's like they're getting anything really off it. I mean, they get Herald off it, but you're keeping your mid tower alive. You're fine. Like, Sylas can't do anything. It impacts your side lanes, so this is fine.
So this here is how you win games with Mel, by the way, just at a high level. You take good traits, you become a massive nuisance, and then you land your ability. So here, I land my E, I land my Q, I weave in the autos, and then what ends up happening, he's probably pinging assistance from the Graves. The Graves is getting gaslit, horizontal movement to avoid the E2. I land the E again, land the Q, finish him off with R, and then I know Graves has no threat onto me now. He has no Q. Go in, EQ, auto. I've still got my W coming up. I just got to keep reflect his auto, horizontal movement again, another kill. And like, this is the thing with Mel is that, like, again, into these low range champions that have to come into you, you can do a lot of work.
Okay, insta recall. I think a lot of people might have greeted for that tower. You're valuing your tempo here.
Yeah, first tower's already gone. I'd rather my tempo. I can get that later. I'm not really.
That tower's going to break anyway. There's no way they can keep holding mid. Look at your 2 levels ahead, and 70 farm ahead here. Like you will have no problems breaking that mid tower at all. That will fall. It's impossible to defend. If I'm the enemy Graves right now, I can't. Mid's just gone.
Yep.
So value your tempo there is just better. Maybe if that was versus a ranged champion, would you have probably stayed there and probably gotten the tower?
Yeah, the other thing I was scared of as well is I didn't know if Sylas had TP or not, so I was worried about overstaying and Sylas TPing back. Because I don't have TP. And
then he'll get a chest turn on you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a really good point. That's exactly why I did, because I didn't want him to have a move over me. Because if I can keep this guy down, keep him on a leash, then there's no way this game gets out of my grasp.
Yeah, I mean, imagine Sylas' perspective this whole game for the last 18 minutes. He can't roam at all. He's just stuck catching waves and waiting, and you're not hard pushing every wave, especially, that whole, 5 to 15 minute mark, where you are happy to just leave the wave neutral a little bit and then shove, it's so frustrating for Sylas. He can't play the game.
And this is what people don't understand about mages. It's all about those small things that add up over the course of a lane phase. And yeah, the thing about the lead was tiny at the start, and it grows and grows. It's like investing in the stock market, the S&P 500. You get those incremental gains, but then it compounds.
Yeah, now it's just like unplayable for Sylas. Yeah. 3 level advantage here now. You're just solo killing him now. Okay, so once mid tower breaks now, bots take it also. Let's talk about mid game sort of macro here. So your mindset here is side lane. You want to get to a side lane now?
Yep, so I'm picking the neutrals. I'm trying to think about the next neutral. The Vayne's still bot, so I can't swap yet. So I'm just going to cover mid until, the Vayne ends up, swapping. Dragon seems to be the next neutral objective, so I'm trying to put my body in the area here. So I'm just waiting. There's no point running bot now. So I'm just trying to chill. Now, this is very intentional. So I saw Vel'Koz move up, and so I just was sitting on my control ward, and I just get a really nice little pick here.
So you saw Vel'Koz is down, he's moving up here, okay.
And he's going to move up. He has nowhere else to go. So he unfortunately just missed me on the Scry's Bloom. Look, you'll see, he uses the Scry's Bloom, misses me, and then I get the E, get the Q, weave in the auto, reflect the Q, get my R, boom. I'm going to swap the lane assignments with the Vayne here.
Yep, really important to go bot there. You're catching the bot wave.
So I think the initial part of this mid game was pretty clean by me. I think I was falling asleep a little bit in terms of like I just felt really strong, so I lost focus a little bit at certain stages. But there's a lot of good fundamentals here moving into the mid game, which I'm excited to get into here. So as you can see, Dragon is coming up, Arcane is coming up. So now I'm just trying to push this guy off the ward. I'm just trying to be annoying here. And here I use my Q to check to see if anyone's in there. No one's in there, so I walk in. And this is one of those games. This is the real cheat thing with Mel. Well, one of the really big selling points of Mel is that Mel is one of the few mages that at this point of the game can get sideline prio, even into a lot of champions. That's why Victor traditionally is a high-elo mage, because he can beat a lot of champions in the side lane. That's what I like about Mel, is because of the way your kit operates with the E and the W, I can get prio into a shit ton of champions, even assassins sometimes. So, yeah.
And why is that? Why can't you do assassins? That's because you have so much damage, they can't run into you and kill you if you just sit behind minions. Like, why this champion over other mage champions that is very good at getting priority?
Okay, so so let's just go back, and then, because there's a lot of questions here. So basically, all right. So basically here, the reason Mel can do this over other mages is because the way your W and E operate. Think about a lot of assassins; they have one big bursty ability. And your W blocks that. Your W is not only a reflect, Nathan, it's also you go invulnerable. You don't take damage for that split second.
I see.
Right? And then your E is really, really good. It's AoE, but it's self-peel. So because of the way that those abilities function into a lot of champions, I can mitigate a lot of burst damage, and that allows me to navigate the side lane. So there's that, right? And now, so a lot of people say, well, Curtis, you're a control mage. Why wouldn't you just turn onto the neutral objective here? Why don't you just turn back onto Dragon or something? Well, in my mind, I'm trying to like rob the bank, but then also, order a pizza at the same time. I'm trying to do many things at once here. I'm trying to keep the Sylas pin to the tier 2. I'm trying to be as annoying as humanly possible, because in my mind, my team's just going to do the Dragon. They're okay. They don't need me because we've already got the pick. So I'm trying to do too many things, but I just didn't factor in the on TP. I get a little bit, I get punished for it. So that's the greed, but there's a reason I did that very intentionally. I didn't want to waste time helping them with Dragon. I want to keep those waves pushed out.
Trying to min-max your pressure, I guess, this game.
Exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, good TP by Ornn, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, so third item, we're building Crypt Bloom here. So this is sort of again the stock standard build that you're sort of been going.
Yep.
Black Fire Torch, Leandre's into Crypt Bloom.
Into high HP. Now, I hate this TP, by the way, like, if we're talking about macro. So the reason this TP is really bad is because what's the next neutral objective, Nathan?
Yeah, Arcane.
Why the hell am I TPing topside? This is an autopilot TP. I saw Sylas, my eyes light up, I'm TPing. This is really, really, really bad. What I should do is beeline mid, put my body in the area, and then assess. And then I can go cover top, walk top, and then hold my TP. Or if we get a pick, we can turn it straight into an Arcane. I don't even need to go top. So this is like a really bad TP. And I realize that after you TP, you'll see from this point onwards, I'm like, what am I doing? Wake up, Curtis.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
This is a wake up, yeah, situation.
It's a wake up.
Okay, so you'd run mid, and you'd see if there's stuff brewing. If your team started to try Arcane or there's crazy stuff going, then you'll just rotate. But if your team started back off, if people start basing or whatever, you're like, okay, I'm just going top. So walk in mid gives you the options to go either top or bot.
Yeah, because the top wave was already shoved out. There was barely any waves there anyway.
Makes sense.
So now I'm thinking, okay, Curtis, I can't be here. So I'm just trying to shove the wave, basically, and get the hell out of here. That's really what I'm just trying to do here.
You're trying to fix your mistake.
I'm trying to fix my mistake. I'm scrambling. I'm like, oh my god, get the hell out of here.
But this could have been a very relaxed situation. You'd have
Yes.
TP. You could stay top. You don't have to be forced to run bot.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is just showing how bad that TP was. It was really like end of your little stuff.
Yep. Just, I mean, yeah, exactly right. And then luckily my team didn't, do anything, so I get away with it. So just pure luck, really. TP gives you adaptability. So now what I'm trying to do, I tried to get my team to start the Arcane. I'm trying to influence with my pings because I want the enemy to come into me. Like, we're so much stronger. But, that's fine. I just put my body in the area. We end up trying to find a bit of a pick out. I just want to fight. I'm so strong. That's kind of my mentality right now. I don't want to be dicking around. I just want to fight. I'm going to push them all the way back. So that's kind of my mentality here.
Good W on the Ornn ult. Sylas still can't play the game. He can't control his character.
And these are perfect fights for Mel. Front to backs, getting max damage on my E's and Q's, max AoE. It's just clean. I get the beautiful reflect on the Ornn. You know, you can't go wrong. That's really a classic fight for Mel. And I didn't even have to use my R. Don't even have to use it.
Really demonstrating again how good Mel is into these low range, low threat sort of comps. It's just, yeah, you could just pump out damage and play front to back really easily.
Yep. So basically here, I just wanted to push him back, get the tier 2. And again, I just didn't feel the need to help my team on the Atacon. So notice how I'm just trying to get as much as possible. If I feel like my team can do Atacon without me, I'm trying to get every bit of farm. I'm like a vacuum. Wherever this farm, siphon it up.
Squeezing the juice out of the orange. You want to get every little drop.
Exactly right. Just trying to keep mid-wave shoved in to give them 0 counterplay. Because if I can keep this mid-wave shoved in, they can't shove down mid and trade Atacon for mid-tower. That was my thought process here anyway. But Graves is a good play. If you helped your team on mid,
if you helped your team on bot, you would have lost mid tower by this point. Map pressure, and then maybe the flow of the game could be you lose that, and then they get control topside, you guys walk in and die, and then it's just like an absolute kerfuffle.
Exactly right. Graves did a good play though. He positioned really well. He did some really good pathing. He like looped behind me.
Smart.
It was very good. Like he didn't come in linear. He like looped behind. It was well played. I mean, props to him. He shut me down here. Like, see how he comes in from that top edge of the river? So he actually caught me off guard. I did not think Graves was going to do that. I thought he was just going to be like, oh, like Mel's out. But no, he punished me. He kept me honest. And that's a sign of a jungler that, you know, he's trying to win. He's trying to keep me honest, you know?
It's 8-5. He's trying.
He's trying. He's busting his balls here.
He's getting creative. It's creative play right there.
Yep. Okay, so it gets a bit messy as a result of my mistake. And now it's the same thing. Next neutral objectives. Notice how I'm in the chat. I pinged Dragon. Elise followed up on my thing. I'm just swapped to Blue Trinket now mid-game to give me a bit of flexibility. And basically now what I'm just trying to do is just make sure I'm there for major neutral objectives and play for front-to-back team fights. That's really the aim of the game here. Always shove mid.
Mid-wave, most important thing in the mid-game. It's all about mid-wave shove. Okay, so we're not really interested in side laning here. We're just shoving mid-grouping with your team, and you're just playing around dragons the next objective. Is that the idea?
Yep, I'm just controlling the choke points. And if they want to get vision, I'm here. And then look at that. He phase checks me. One shot. It's just neat and tidy. And this is the fundamental of mages. You always want to get to neutral objectives early rather than later, to prevent them from walking in. You know, Mel's the queen of choke points. So now I'm on the dragon as it spawns. If they want to come and fight, come at me. You know, I'm in the river. I'm controlling as my river.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would have got very confused here. Like, Dragon's not up yet. I feel like they would just get confused. They would just, like, run top and be like, oh, I have TP. Dragon's up, this next objective. But look at, because it's such a just important, like, challenger move. You know, you're just like, you know that they're not going to do Baron because they're behind. It's just impossible for them to start Baron.
And I blue triggered it on purpose, by the way. I actually stuck my blue trigger on before.
Yes, so there's no way, right? So then, and then giving yourself the option here. And people might be saying, well, what happens, Curtis, if they don't come for this dragon?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm actually happy to give the tier 1 top if I absolutely have to. It's only a tier 1 tower top. It doesn't matter. And I could, theoretically, I could TP. But honestly, I would probably just give it. And no big deal. It's so low anyway. I
always say these towers fall like paper at this stage of the game. Yeah. You don't worry about them. You don't need to defend those. They do nothing for the game. Yeah, so that gives you the dragon. Now, you always say you like juicing out as much as possible, Curtis. Why do you feel like you need to be here to help your team with Elise and Vayne and not just go back, push bot or something?
Because the bot wave was already quite deep. It was already pretty deep. If it was that neutral state, it might have moved over, but it was quite deep. And this Ornn was like, just his movement was pretty Chad-like. He was like walking up. He was he was getting it up in our business, you know? And yeah, he
can't leave your team.
No, I didn't really feel comfortable here. And I wasted my W there, so I had to use my flash. But me and Elise and Vayne. And yeah, he caught me off guard. I thought he was going to run away, but he just stood his ground and just brought the fight. So, by the way, so notice how Mel into these high range champions, it's hard for me to get on top of them. So you'll see as we move into this mid game, this center became a bit of a problem for me. You know, and this is the challenge of Mel, these high range champions. Very annoying.
I feel like you'll do no damage. I feel like I'm never threatened by Mel as center. Like, you know, these really high range champs, because, you know, center's range is obviously has rapid fire cannon. Her range is really high, Valkos. So it's going to be interesting to see again. So I guess this is, again, the weakness in the fighting. By the way, so I guess in team fights a lot of the time, you're just trying to front to back just kill the melee champs running into you. Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. By the way, notice how I just let Elise die? Like, it's so important. Like, you're not going to help everyone. Like, that. What is Elise doing? You know, we've already got the wave.
Teams
I've
in
got a lot of
base.
gold. What are we doing? You know, and so in my mind, I don't care if Elise dies. If Elise, you want to die running around like an idiot, so be it. Like, you got to get comfortable when you're playing these sorts of champs like Mel. You are the carry. You know, you can't help everyone. And you got to have the confidence in your ability to execute moving into the mid game.
I mean, at least it's just going for low HP targets. Just seeing red. I see low HP person, I go kill. It's like the monkey brain.
Yep.
But you can't help that because you're against two ranged champions. They're never going to let you do damage, so you're useless in that situation. Useless. So yeah, it's really accepting your strengths and weaknesses as this champion.
Yeah, because if I walk over there, they're just going to walk away and then they just waste my tempo. You know, I don't want to do that. So this is where the game slowed down because Elise started dying randomly. We just, it slowed. And this is welcome to solo queue. You know, like sometimes I'm a mage. I can only do so much. All I can do is keep mid-wave shoved out. I can establish vision, but I'm very limited. I can't start Baron by myself. And if people start getting picked and running around the map and dying around the map, it's out of my control. So this is very awkward. So Seraphine got picked, Elise got picked before. We're losing a lot of map control here. So the game's slowing down.
So in terms of like your power curve, your power spike with Mel, are you like, so early game, you know, you're saying you're quite weak. Mid game, 2 items, you start ramping up. Is it a constant or do you get stronger or do you start dropping off from like levels 16 to 18?
No, I think Mel's a very consistent power curve. It's like Lost Chapter's nice, first item's nice, 2 items. You keep getting stronger. It's not really, I don't think it's a champ that it's like, wow, you get 3 items and you explode. It's not like that. It's not like an 80 carry. You know, 80 carry, you get your 3rd item and you just pop off. It's not like that. It's just like a very just consistent power curve.
What about Mel as a mage in late game fights versus like a Azir or a Syndra or something like that? How does she compare to them?
I think it depends on the comps. Some games Mel can be really, really, really good. Other games it's pretty average. Like it just depends on the champs. Again, I would say Syndra has a little bit more range. Like, you know, you have that more pick potential, I would say. Whereas you know, Mel kind of requires the enemy to definitively come into you. Because your E's so slow. But yeah, nothing will really out damage in this game. I will say that. But I just bringing it back to the game here. Elise is just running around the map, hovering bot side. You know, and this is welcome to solo queue, guys. This guy, sometimes games will just get stalled out because your team doesn't know what they're doing. So my mindset in this when this happens, guys, is yes, I would love to do Baron. You know, admittedly, I probably could have taken more control and spam pinged assistance and taken more responsibility. So that's my lessons here. But the reality is that like it happens at all ranks. People are just going to lose focus. I even lost focus at parts of this game. And all it takes is 1 or 2 deaths for the game to stall out. We could have done Baron basically, you know, 4 minutes ago if we really wanted to, but just not how this game panned out. So I'm just trying to keep wave shoved out, keep up my farm, don't compensate, and just buy time for the Baron.
I wonder if your team's ever going to do Baron here, Curtis. I want to see how this game actually stabilizes. If people's like, okay, guys, let's wake up. Let's do Baron in the game properly.
Yeah, it's like, think about what's happened. Elise got caught, Seraphine got caught, then Elise got caught, then Vayne got caught. It's just everyone's just dying one by one. And so the way I would have reviewed this is say reviewing a client's review is like, well, where are your pings? You should have taken control. You should have pinged the Elise on top side. You know, but I didn't, and I'm suffering the consequences of not controlling and manhandling my Alicia. And we can't do anything. We can't do Baron without the Vayne. We can't do the Baron. So we're just kind of hovering around. I'm trying to just maintain control and prevent them from moving into the river. That's all I can do while we buy time.
Yep, keep shoving mid.
Yep.
You're not forcing a fight here. I mean, to be honest, your comp has 0 engage tools anyway. Theoretically, you should be creating situations where they are, you know, you're creating situations where you're pushing mid, sweeping vision, then face checking you, and then you guys killing them, right? You have Elise, Seraphine thing. So you're never going to just win some random 5v5 mid, right? Like if anything, they have the advantage because they have, you know, the Ornals.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, they chose to engage because Vayne's dead. So I'm very limited. I mean, I'm just trying to do the best I can. I'm just trying to pop ability from a distance. We're struggling because we're getting kind of outranged, to be quite honestly. Vel'Koz and Senna's just being really annoying. And you know, it is what it is. I'm just trying to do the best I can. I'm trying to clear waves. I'm trying to defend my tier 1. And this is where Mel is really thrives, these sorts of fights. They went too close, and then we end up just cleaning up.
Great positioning, very patient. Melee, low-range champs. I mean, I don't know why they're trying to fight you guys under tier 1 mid-tower, but there you go.
I think they got excited. They're like, oh my god, we got to kill. We're like, finally.
Keep going.
But yeah.
So that gives you the Baron.
Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Now, next objective is TP for tempo.
Elder.
Dragon.
And then basically after Elder, the game is done. I wouldn't really say there's much after this Elder. You just get the Elder, then the game's... Yeah. And then that's it, really. The rest is like kind of nothing too... I mean, I think some people get... I think I get picked really randomly, and then the game just stalls out a little bit. I just completely disrespected center, and then that's it. I wouldn't really go any further than this. We end up slowly just winning on the next rotation, basically.
All right, great stuff. Okay, so let's now jump into our lane matchup difficulty tier list here, Curtis. So we're just going to purely focus on lane matchups. We've already established in the gameplay review that you're really good against low range, but let's just go through them one by one. So where would you put Ari here?
Yeah, Ari is easy. And I guess before we, as well, when we're getting into this, do you want this to be at, like, if we're talking at the highest level, is this like Emerald? Where do you want to do this?
Let's do around like medium elo range, so like a Plat Emerald.
Plat Emerald, okay. Yeah, Ari,
and
easy.
And then I guess at the end we can talk about where some things might change.
Okay.
So high elo.
Yeah. All right. So Ari definitely easy. I would say Akali. Let's put it in easy for now. We can maybe explore that one later.
And that's just again classic because just low range.
Low range, you know, high cooldowns. You can kind of just be a nuisance. Yeah. Akshan. I would say medium for now. It depends because it really depends. Because the good thing about Mel into Akshan is you have Peel. Actually, put it in hard. A competent Akshan, it is hard in my opinion because they don't. There's nothing you're gonna reflect. What are you gonna reflect? You know, I guess you can reflect a Q, but that doesn't really. You can't prevent Akshan from just like shoving and moving. Like you can't shut him down. So I'll put it in hard.
Anivia?
I would say it's pretty medium. Pre-6. I'm just going to put it in medium. We'll come back to that one as well, maybe.
Why is it Bessa? Is it Bessa or mid laner?
And Bessa can be played mid. I would say I'd be easy. Yeah, very easy. Annie, I would say medium. Because Annie's threat onto you post 6 can be a bit of a nuisance. And Annie's auto attacks are a problem. They're quite high range auto attacks. And Annie can just use E reactively, so you're never going to land your E on a good Annie. So I would say medium. Asol, easy.
Easy in lane? Does he get harder as the game goes on? These are scales, or is this not really got to do with Aurelion Sol?
Well, the reality is Asol's just a very weak laner, you know? And so you could just get prio, you can control the lane.
Aurora?
Easy. It's a very mid to low range matchup, so you can just take over the Aurora. I would say Azir.
I don't see Azir much in solo queue.
Again, it depends on pre-6, post-6. I'll say holistically medium.
Brand.
I would say medium because, again, it's like you can't... Because Brand's like non-committal. He's just going to play for the wave and you know, he kind of can match your wave clear and it's kind of annoying to like what are you going to reflect at the end of the day? So I would say medium. I mean, you can easily minimize, but you're not like going to shut him down. So I'm just going to say medium. It's kind of like a Nivea in that sense.
So it sounds like a big thing that you think about is what can I W? Is there a high value ability I can W?
Yeah. Is there something I can like, if you think about Azir, like what am I going to W? Or like, you know, Nivea's going to arm me. I can't W that. Cassia, I would say, is actually pretty easy because it's just low range. Super, super low range. Gorky, I think, would be kind of annoying, I reckon. I would say put in medium. Medium.
Diana? Easy? Or does she have a lot of fun with you?
Diana spikes very hard early. Has a lot of early damage. I guess you do get value, but I'll just put it in medium for the sake of like you could easily mess up your abilities and get hardcore punished. So I wouldn't say it's easy. I think there's not much room for error. So put it in medium.
So medium sort of like skill matchup as well. It's like a sort of skill oriented.
In hindsight, I would actually put Akali on medium.
Skill, yeah.
We'll come back to that.
Things look the same. They
a little bit more skill oriented.
Echo.
Echo. Well, Echo is actually really annoying because he can just like not interact with you. So it's kind of like Akshan, I would say. It's like, let's say, look, let's put it in medium because it's not like I'm going to die to an Echo. But I can, if the Echo's good, he can minimize very, very, and play away from me.
Fizz seems like a Sylas.
Well,
and you have a big value you could W, right?
Well, again, the difference between Sylas is just a lot weaker than Fizz early. I would say, yeah, I would personally say easy, but there's a lot of people that wouldn't. I would just say easy. If you take bone plating and you're really competent with your abilities, I would say easy.
And would you be building like a Seraphs in here? It's like it should be a Seraphs build against these type of champs. So Seraphs against like probably these champions.
Yep.
Galio.
Easy. No, again, for the same reason as like he's just quite early game. Like it's like Diana, same reason as Diana. I'll just put it in maybe medium.
How many are?
Never versed it. I would assume that it's just like medium. Like you're just gonna chill farm scale. Okay, so
high range, yeah.
Yeah, so like, look, yeah, I would say a good way is gonna bully you. So I would say hard. Like a competent way is going to be annoying to deal with. I think Aurelia is very hard because the reason being is because you can't really prevent Aurelia from getting on top of you because you're weak early game. She's going to control the wave. It's very hard. A competent Aurelia. Jace, I would say medium. Kassadin, I would say pretty easy, but it's like easy pre-6, annoying post-6.
Post-6, yeah. So this champion would get very hard.
It can get very hard, yeah. It gets very hard, but then like it's easy early game. So it's like, I would say medium to hard. Like probably, it depends. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to sometimes do these tier lists because it changes at phases of the lane, you know? Yeah. So probably medium, I guess.
Medium to hard. Katarina?
I think this is a very solid matchup. I would say easy. LeBlanc, I would say is hard because he's just early game spiking. You're not getting a ton of value from your. Yeah, I would say hard if the LeBlanc knows how to play it, but just because again spikes can play very fast and aggressive.
Lissandra,
it's very easy, low range.
She's such high value W's, right?
Yeah, high value W's. Lux, I would say is just very annoying. I'd put it, you know, again, like it depends how good you are mechanically, but I would just say, I would put it in, it's somewhere like medium to hard. Really, in hindsight, they probably could be a medium to hard, like a below medium, but like, let's just, for the average, I'm thinking of the average platinum player, they probably would find it hard. If the Lux is competent, medium and hard, it's really, really hard to say.
Mel's.
I would say it's a pretty easy matchup. You just destroy the Voidlings very easily.
Always easy throughout the whole game?
Yeah, because low range, you can wave clear, match the wave clear. Really good.
All right, we are Mel, so now to Fury.
It's non-committal. I would say it's probably medium because the threat post-6 can be a little bit frustrating. So I'd put it in medium.
Nico,
I'd say medium. Hard,
yeah. It's like sort of strongish lane phase as well as a good range, right?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think a competent Orianna would probably annihilate a Mel. So in Platinum, it's like hard, but in like, if that was high-elo, that would be like very hard, you know?
Pantheon.
Put it in medium because there's not much room for error. It could be easy if you're super competent and know how to understand how Pantheon's kit works. But like I found on average, a lot of people, they don't know how to play around Pantheon's passive stack, so the average person is probably going to think it's a medium matchup.
Kiana.
I think it's very easy, personally, if you know how to play around the abilities. The average person, though, is probably going to think it's a medium, so just do medium.
Let's skip Rumble. He's not really a mid laner. Rise.
Medium.
Seraphine mid?
I mean, it's very weak, right? So it does nothing, so it's just easy. He's just a very weak champion.
Small to mid. Is small to mid even a thing anymore?
It is. It's one of those champs where like it won't interact and it will kind of just like, it can use its flight thing kind of reactively. So I would say look, it's probably. Well, it's not a hard matchup. He's not really. Smolder's not going to do anything proactively, so just put it in easy, I guess.
Swain mid, low range.
Put it in. I would put it in medium because, like, let's say post 6. You're not like, what are you blocking? Like, I guess you could block the E. Let's just put it in medium. I wouldn't put it in the same category as, like, there's other ones.
Sylas, we've established from our VOD review.
I personally think it's easy. Yeah.
You think a platinum player might think it's more medium?
Yeah, because they don't know. They don't know how to E. Yeah, they don't know how to use the W into it. So I would just put it in medium.
Okay. Syndra.
Syndra's hard.
Hard.
Yep.
Talia.
I would say the average platinum will probably think it's medium.
Talon mid.
I think it's pretty easy.
Tristana mid.
Tristana. What are you going to block with the W?
It's that
I mean,
again,
the good thing with Tristana has good wave clear. It can spike pretty early. I think it would be medium for the average player if the Triss is competent. TF, medium, because it's medium because, like, again, you can't really prevent him from moving. So medium.
Veigar.
I actually played that matchup the other day, yesterday. I think it's medium. Vel'Koz is, it's annoying. Like, any of those high range champs are annoying. I put it in probably hard.
Vex low range.
I think that would be pretty medium. Hard.
Victor. Hard. Yeah.
Vlad. Yeah, look, I would say medium. People get very... Like, you just got to have good resets. I think, personally, it's, like, a very good matchup for Mel, but, like, Vlad seems to punish, like, average fundamentals, and a lot of Platinum mid laners have average fundamentals, so I would say medium.
Xerath, I'm assuming in hard.
If a good competent Xerath.
Yasuo?
Yasuo is really annoying, personally. I think it's a very hard...
How do you hit your abilities?
Yeah, you can't hit your abilities. He spikes really early. He can control the wave. I think a really competent Yasuo can be very hard. And I think a lot of Platinum Mels would think it's very hard. So I'd put it in very hard, personally.
Yone.
I think that's a very easy matchup. Yeah.
Zed?
I think it's hard because you're very squishy and, like, you just take a while to come online, and, like, his cooldowns are just kind of like, you can't really get a ton of value from your W, and I'm just trying to think. It's somewhere between hard and medium. It depends on if you have a mental block with it, how sophisticated your matchup understanding is. That's very hard. I mean, the Zed is one of those champions where, like, if you get it, it wouldn't be a hard matchup. Like, you understand the cooldowns. If you don't get it and you don't know these cooldowns, you get shit on. So it's like medium to hard. I'll leave that on to you. Probably medium. Let's just put it in medium.
Let's do medium. So what do you block with Zed against Zed?
You would just use it not to reflect anything, but you would just use it to mitigate that initial WEQ combo.
Okay.
That damage.
Ziggs?
Ziggs would just be medium because the damage is just like unreliable,
I see. So it's high range, but it's just,
just unreliable.
The reason why you don't see Ziggs mid, right? It's like,
you don't see it too often, no.
Zillion?
I don't know if really see Zillion mid, but, like, let's say, I mean, you could probably block a lot of his shit. I would say it's easy, honestly.
Yeah, let's chuck it in easy. It's just bad chance.
Zoe is... Yeah, it's bad chance. I think Zoe's hard. It spikes early. Not really much you're reflecting in the early game. I don't see Zara mid. I wouldn't even put that in there.
Yeah, let's not put that in there. All right. Now, how would some of these change when it comes to high-elo Curtis playing like Challenger lobbies, Master Plus?
Okay, so, like, I think a very... Okay, so let's start with the top. Okay, so let's...
Why is Ari easy, by the way? Why is Ari really easy, by the way?
Yeah, so the reason it's easy is because... Okay, so Ari's abilities can be blocked, or, like, think about it, like, the Q can be blocked really well, the E can get blocked. Also, Ari's just a very mid to low range champion, so So Mel has a lot of just like can just trade very effectively. I would say it's one of those champs though where like once Ari gets to the later stages, let's say level 8, level 9, then Ari's just going to shove and move and then it will be annoying. But the lane that levels 1 to 8 will be quite easy, assuming that the Mel knows how to play the lane very aggressively. So like all those early lane, I think that all those easy ones will probably stay easy. Champs that I would say would alter a little bit. Let's say... Okay, so I would say in the higher elo brackets, I would say...
Again, we're talking about lane phase.
Lane phase. Well, quite honestly, I think Italia would be annoying because like there's just you can't do anything to her. She's gonna outskate. She's gonna play the map. Like I think Italia would be annoying because they have good wave clear. They could keep their distance. You know, you're not getting a ton of value from blocking anything. So I would say that. I think, yeah, I'd say that moves to hard. I would say maybe a competent Jace, but even then, probably not now. I would say Kassadin moves to hard. If I'm in Master Blast and I see a Kassadin, I'm not happy. I don't want that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be happy seeing a Mel on my team against Kassadin.
And sure. even Akali, I would be annoyed. Like, I don't want that. I don't want to be in that situation because Akali is going to be a nuisance in the mid game. And like,
it's interesting to be talking about lane phase here, but Master Plus, it's a different dynamic because you can't just win the game through lane phase. So I guess the tier list we're creating here is really just overall game. Just like who would you not like to see in draft or just player in mid lane? So let's do the tier list like that.
That's kind of what I mean. That's why Zed as well is kind of annoying. Like Zed, I would put Zed to hard as well because like Zed becomes just a little bit annoying in the mid game, in my opinion. Even Azir, like I wouldn't say Azir, like a competent Azir, especially in this meta at the moment, it would be annoying.
Tristana? Wouldn't Tristana start moving to hard if you've inserted a really good Tristana?
No, because Tristana has to come into you still, and it's very linear, so I would still put it in medium. I personally would hate to verse TF, a competent TF. Like I'm not going to do anything to TF. He's just going to chill and scale, and I can't deal with that in the mid game. I would probably move LeBlanc to medium. I would probably like a competent Mel could probably like really screw him. I think Lux also is just not a good high elo champion, so I would just put that down. Yep. I would say same thing with like Vel'Koz and Xerath. Like I wouldn't view them as hard at all in high elo games. Like put them back to medium. And I would say, I would say the rest of that is pretty accurate, honestly. And honestly, like there should be maybe like I would actually probably bump things like Victor, Syndra down to like very hard. You know, a comp. Yeah. So if we were talking Master Blast, put them to very hard, that to very hard, and maybe even Orianna to really hard.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is looking good.
Yeah.
What about Hawaii? Hawaii doesn't go into that?
It's just not as oppressive, and you could probably block some of those abilities. So yeah. Yeah, I think it's solid. I think it's pretty solid. It's hard to make these sorts of tier lists, but it's a good general overview for sure.
All right, great stuff. Let's now go into our Emerald player VOD review of Mel, applying everything we've learned so far. Okay, so this is our Platinum 1 Mel main that we've found. They've got 168 games with Mel, negative win rate. And we're going to be applying everything that we've learned so far on this. So first, let's do a bit of an OPGG review, criticizing this guy's build. And this is the game we're going to review in the 7-9-5 game. So let's just talk about the build that he goes this specific game. Let's just poke some holes in it, Curtis. So he's going the Archangel staff.
He's going the Seraphs build. Okay, so there's a few things that jump out. I personally think that Mana Flow and... First thing that jumps out to me, he's got Mana Flow and Presence of Mind. I'm not a massive fan of that. I just think it's overkill, especially if you're going Seraphs. It's way too much mana. You don't need that much. I think that... I also think that the ability haste is just a little bit too greedy. I would like to see some attack speed there, especially into an Annie, who can be a little bit annoying. In terms of the build, though, I actually like it. I think it's a good Seraphs game. You're versing an ally, Malphite, Echo. They have they're very upfront damage, very burst heavy, and you also have like basically no front line. So you're gonna have to peel for yourself. This is a game where I can already tell like it's all about threat assessment. So I actually like the Seraphs. As for the second item, the Liandry's, I would say it's quite an average. It depends on what the Annie builds. If the Annie went rower and the Malphite went tank, then yeah, I think it's okay. If they didn't, then I would probably like to see Cosmic Drive or something like that.
I didn't see Merc Treads in any of your builds, Curtis. You either got Ability Haste or Sork Shoes.
Well, I would say this is a pretty good game for Mercs, to be honest with you. Yeah, you get a lot of value. Yeah, a lot of AP. I like it. I have no problem with it.
And there's no Dark Seal here at all. Let's see if this guy builds Dark Seal. You think that's a problem? Is that like a 1%er?
I think it's a 1%er. If you can buy it, you can buy it. If you can't, you can't.
So it looks like he's going the Seraphs, Liandry's, just going the one build. Would you recommend Mel just going this one build? Do you think Seraphs, Liandry's at the death cap is just fine?
I don't think Seraphs, Liandry's is fine now, no. I think Seraphs is fine. I don't think Liandry's is fine. I think Liandry's got nerfed. I think it's not a good... I think it's more of like a situational item now. And a lot of these games is building Liandry's second item. You're getting no value.
Yeah, okay. So Cosmic Drive, right?
Yeah, I'd probably go something like Cosmic Drive second item, yeah.
All right, but it looks like we're going... Like, we're not even entertaining the idea of Black Fire Torch. Which one of these games would you go Black Fire Torch? This one, there's a lot of threat, right? So this should be the Seraphs Cosmic Drive build, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of games that are good for... Honestly, there's a lot of good games for Seraphs. Look, just looking through this. Like, you got that 7/7 is a Dian and Nocturne. That 6 and 5 one is an Akali Jarvan. You got... I would say that Vigar one, I would go BFT. Yeah, that 4/11, I would go BFT in that one. And I would say that other one, that Zoe and Xin Zhao one, we went 4 and 10. I probably would have went BFT in that one as well. Especially since you have so much peel. Like you got a Poppy and a Zac. You don't need to go Seraphs in that game. So yeah.
We're seeing a lot of high deaths here as well in these games.
Very high deaths. I mean, this is a gigantic red flag. I mean, I can already tell you, just from this OPGG, he needs to work on his threat assessment, and he's probably trying to do too much. I mean, I'm intrigued.
Probably compensating, right? A lot of compensating.
I'm intrigued to see where his deaths are coming from.
So let's take a look here.
So this Annie's going to Electro Ignite, so which means there's a lot of threat post 6. We have a TP advantage here, which is, definitely something we should leverage. There's no level 1 ward. It didn't even bother to even try.
So where would you be looking to ward? Level 1, the enemy Raptors?
Yeah, I probably would have actually tried to go for a level 1 ward if I could. If they don't let me and they zone me, that's fine. But I would try, probably. Spot the first clear. So, in terms of this matchup, I mean, pre-6 is going to be pretty simple, I think, for the most part. Like, I think you just poke with Q. You could probably get a bit of shove here as well. I mean, that's where that roll of attack speed... That Q is atrocious. You're just using Q on one caster. Very, very, very low value. Like, just use it on the enemy and zone.
So why do you think they do that psychologically? What's the idea? Is it because they're afraid they're going to miss the last hit? It's got to be that way, right?
Well, maybe, but it could also be they're panicking to get shove, maybe, sometimes.
I see.
Yeah. So what we want to do now is just poke. Yeah, just poke with those Qs. He's definitely going to need to get a ward out soon. So I would get a ward after this minion. Boom, ward one side. Because right now, how do we know we're not going to get level 3 ganked? We have no idea where Echo is. We don't even know the path Echo's done, so we have no idea what side to lean onto. So no warding, no leaning, which also comports with what we see in the OPGG. His high death, so it wouldn't surprise me if this guy probably, dies to ganks.
So the specific time that you need to go for the ward is the moment this wave is done. Is that right? So you go ward, you start leaning and warding now.
Yeah.
And if you go top side, what do you ward here?
Yeah, the ledge or bot side in the river, either of those are completely fine. As long as it gives you a side to lean onto.
Okay, or here's fine. You just need a side to lean onto.
Yeah. Yeah, so this sort of wave state is not ideal. You ideally want to make sure this crashes. So I'd be going for high value abilities. So even go like an E through the wave or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's fine. You can see he's trying to get the wave in. I like that. Like, you don't really want this wave state. Make sure it crashes. Would be
But
good to see
he's
a
going to
ward.
shove in the wave way quicker.
Yeah, he's like just a little bit more wave clear. That's just a lazy ward. Like, I just would rather you just go a little bit deeper. Just get a ward over the ledge. You know, even just a little bit deeper in the river. That's a nitpick, really. It's a 1%er. At least he did ward. So, you know, if he did have more confidence with his, you know, I guess his jungle tracking and warding, he could probably posture up more aggressively, which would help him land more abilities. That ability he did, that EQ was not timed with the last hit, I don't think. So let's take a look at this, because typically you really want to time your abilities with last hit. So, okay, the cannon's dying.
It should be now, right?
Oh,
so I think it was. It was just a bit too slow.
Yeah, he did try.
Yeah.
He did try.
I guess he wasn't anticipating it enough. It was like the auto attack was already out by the time she used these. So.
And then he walked up with no abilities, and then she got, you know, traded on the back end. So the intention was actually pretty good there. That's fine. I mean, yeah, just keep. So you remember what I said in the tier list? Why Annie's not exactly easy, because she could just use that E reactively, and we're seeing that throughout this lane. Annie's very good at minimizing some of these matchups. Yep, good.
Good W.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've heavy traded, right? So what I would really be looking to do, you could maybe even kill there if you land the Q. Beautiful. Nice. I mean, Annie kept fighting us in the wave, and we got those Qs onto the Annie, so it worked out well. I was going to say, if Annie didn't re-engage, you could just base TP. You leverage your TP advantage, but that's great.
So this is already, we can see, Curtis, the compensation here, right? He's trying to come and help his kindred, right? This is just, the fact that he's even thinking about going for this is a problem. Would you agree?
Yeah, the scuttle's already gone. What are we doing? Just let him, you know, it doesn't matter. Okay, so good. He got the refill. That's really good to see. A lot of players, you know, forget refill or don't buy it, so that's great to see in mage v mage matchups. Yeah, so now at this stage of the lane, you know, remember what I was kind of doing in my VOD? I would be trying to shove and ward and lean, right? I don't really want to pull waves. I don't want the wave in this sort of location. If you're mage v mage matchups, your general premise is you want to be the one that's controlling. So making sure that we have good wards, good leaning, and just keep poking. Okay, so a hard shoving the wave. I mean, you didn't have to. We're comfortable with the way the wave is. You could just be queuing the Annie. Like, why are we hard shoving? The Echo was showing on the map the entire time on that bot ward. You could have just all these queues that you're doing on the wave, just queue the Annie on repeat. Small wins, trade. If you know where the jungler is, why are we mindlessly hard shoving? I mean, maybe it looks like, we'll see here in a moment, maybe he's trying to roam. But that's not what I would be looking to do. I wouldn't be looking to shove and roam here.
Yeah, so this is exactly what you're saying. At this stage of the game, they start mindlessly shoving waves, and they're not using the advantage where they can start poking. I see. This is clearly demonstrating what you did when you could have easily shoved it against Sylas. Now we're seeing here. So we're interested to see what this spell does off this push, right?
Yeah, and a lot of players, they feel like to impact the game, they need to shove and roam, and it's just not it's not your identity. This is not how you win. You know, you're not going to win by shoving and roaming around the map like this. This is just too much. Like, just your job is to just keep that Annie down, keep poking, keep harassing. Like, why are we running around the map like a headless chicken here, you know?
Yeah.
And I see this all the time. People feel like they feel pressure. And what happens is that now you're bleeding farm. You're going down a farm. And now when you move into mid game, if you're not farming well, your champion will feel bad. And then it's like, you know what I mean? You're creating the problem. You know, you're reinforcing the problem.
Created the chaos where you just want a stable early game. You know, this is just the absolute chaos, right? And this all works out, right? So this would probably look like an awesome roam. It's like, Curtis, look at what I did there. You know, it worked.
Yeah, he's faker, I guess. And it's just luck. You know, it's just complete luck. Yeah. You know, if you panned your camera, let's say they were going for a really low percentage dive, and you can go, sure, but they backed off. The play was over. You just got completely lucked out.
So we've dropped two full complete waves here at this point. To be honest, I actually love that Mel is committing hitting the dragon here, because Kindred would probably just get caught and killed here.
Yeah, he's committed to the play.
I like the double down there, actually.
Yep.
I would see a lot of Mels just go busy, like, oh my god, I'm losing farm. So, but again, it's sort of like that whole mindset doesn't seem that it's a hard, you know, this guy's valuing farm that much.
Yeah. So he's probably sitting on a lot of gold. So what you really want to do here is the last thing you want to do is go for a kill. I would ping the Thresh back. I would have one-shot the wave and reset. So this is the worst possible time to make a play, by the way. And for many reasons. Your jungler is now clearing cans because all those shenanigans happen. You just don't drag in. Number two, you're probably sitting on, 1,500 gold or something, or 1,300 gold after all those kills.
You have no ults, you have no flash,
you have nothing.
There's a kill threat.
So either wave, cue the wave, boom, reset. And remember, what we're talking about already, we're saying just trying to do too much. Slow it down.
With the team.
Relax.
But remember, they're like, but I've got to go with my Thresh, otherwise he will flame me.
Remember what happened to me? I got flamed in my game, and then, it's just a free win. You got to be willing to piss people off sometimes and take control. And so now the game is entering. Look at this. We're 39 farm by 7 minutes. It's very, very low farm, overcomplicating the game. So this stage, remember what we said before, warding and leaning, and is going to be the aim of the game. Shoving here makes sense because Annie overstays, so we want to deny a little bit of farm. That's all good. But just ward, lean, chill, relax. I probably would have gone for a Raptors ward then, by the way. Like, instead of hitting the tower, just get a deep ward on the Raptors, spot out the enemy jungler.
So definitely warding could be a thing that this player could be working a little bit on. We do some ward, but especially since Kindred grubs the next objective, that should have been a top side ward.
Those are just very low value wards. Very, very low value wards.
Just sort of autopilot wards, right? There's not much intention to them, is it?
No. Yep. Exactly right. You'd want to be warding on the side of your jungler here because he's starting the neutral. Okay.
I mean, running this is fine. I guess there's no wave, right?
Yeah, we're not losing anything. This is fine. If they want to come in, we can fight. Yeah, let's go. Yeah, I like that. Nice. I mean, nice E. He landed it. Props to him. Pretty good. Yeah, nice. Really good. I like that. I mean, there's a reason he's in Platinum, right? I mean, he's doing some things well. Yep, good. Okay, so, look, this wave state is, you can have it here temporarily. I wouldn't want to keep it here.
Why is that?
Because remember, like, as a Mel, you're kind of like, you want to smother your opponent. You want to be the one that's controlling the wave. You want to be the one that has first move. At this stage, if something would happen in the river, Annie's going to move, Okay, so here's a very, it's a very Annie-specific thing, and it's worth highlighting. When Annie's ability gets reflected, it doesn't use up her stun stack. So you see here, Annie walks up, Mel's thinking, oh, I'm going to reflect the Q, and then I'm going to reflect the stun. Ready? Take a look at this. So there's a W, and here comes the Q. Ready? Boom. Well, actually, I think he does a Q. Oh, no, he autos. Okay, but that's actually... Well, the way it actually works, though, I'm pretty sure is that it gets reflected. Because it gets reflected and the stun doesn't proc, it won't proc the passive stacks. And so the stun will still stay up.
Oh, that's like the stun. And
the stun. So you don't reflect the stun. That's the thing.
Makes sense.
But anyway, so just threat assessment into the Annie. And, that's... remember what I said as well in the tier list. Annie has a lot of threat on 2.6. Mel is very squishy in the early stages of the game. And we get punished for it. And now, because the wave was frozen on our side, we lose a shit ton of farm for that. That's a big death. Very big death. Okay, so it doesn't track the support roam. We didn't use our lull states properly to track the support roaming window. And, the Alistair comes through and punts our head into the tower. Remember, when you're in a mobile mage, something you always got to remember, especially when you don't have flashes, so you got a giant target on your back. Kill me, everyone. Kill me. Everyone wants to kill you. Right? And so...
Look at
this positioning.
The only person to kill is the Mel, right? So, and it's also just like not playing with your jungle or,
no
like,
vision.
This is not the time to hit towers. You're dead here. You're always dead here.
You're dead. Yep. And this is just whether it's a lapse in focus or whatever the hell it might be, that's all it takes.
Because they don't know what else to do. Because what else do you do here, Curtis, right? That's the thing where I find people struggle with.
So what you do is you in the lull state, you should read the map. Where is everyone? What's going on with supports, top lane, jungle, calibrate the map state. And what you would do is you would ward. You would move into top side and get a ward. And you would actually wait for Alistair to show on the map, actually. And then you just hold the wave in neutral state. Because you don't need to walk up, right? The wave's just going to come out. We're chilling. So now we're 3-3, right? We're 3-0, right, at some stage, and I think now we're 3-3. And now you're 3-3, but with 65 CS at 11 minutes. Okay,
and he's sort of allowed to impact the map because we don't have control. Like, you know, you talked a lot about you want to keep your laner on a leash as Mel.
Yep. So yeah, Annie's been unleashed. The collar's off, and Annie's able to do what she wants. Yeah, so basically at this stage of the game, we're basically trying to... I mean, at this stage, you've got a 5-in-1 Jhin. I mean, everyone's doing well. You basically just want to kind of scale into the mid-game and play those front-to-back team fights for the most part. And keep up your farm. We don't want to be ditching waves. Say we're ditching waves here. I mean, look, sure, maybe there's a play, but like... I want to be getting every wave. Like, I need to get to my first item. You're a pre-1 item Mel. You know, we really don't want this. Like, once I get my Seraphs, and, you know, maybe, but like 2 items is very important for Mel. You know, I do want to get to my 2 items as fast as possible. Notice how different this is into my game. How I was just so like patient and slow and just like playing for my lane and warding and leaning. And this is just a complete 180.
Yeah, the Mel loves creating chaos here and ditching waves.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, very interested to see the team fight skirmishing here, Curtis.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't space the Annie there, and he's able to get a really good R. I mean, I actually don't mind that R because it doesn't look like he's going to enter combat anyway, re-enter combat. So like, you might as well just get the R damage off. I mean, it was just another great example of just like not contemplating. Oh, did he reflect the stun there? Maybe did I gaslight you before? I thought that's not how it worked. Let's take a look. Oh, no. It did. It did stun. I lie. Wow. Okay, that's not...
And is the stun off as well, right? Like, it doesn't have the stacks.
Yeah. No, wow. That's actually... Because there's another ability. Maybe is it the spell shield or something? Or it must be Fizz E. When Fizz E's or something. There's like an interaction with Annie. Because I used to play a lot of Annie, and then if the stun doesn't... I think it was Fizz E. You know, if you try to use a Q on Fizz and the E's... it won't go through. So yeah, no, wow, that's actually good to know. I didn't know that with Addy. But yeah, that probably, again, what we're seeing here is the team fighting. It's the positioning and it's the threat assessment. You know, that's really what we're seeing here. And so a lot of Mels that I work with, they know how to deal damage, right? They know how to land their abilities, you know, but they don't have a great understanding about how their kit interacts with other champions. And, you know, as you can see, we're tunnel visioning on doing damage. We're not protecting ourselves at all times. We're not valuing our life. And we're just running in there and melee murdering people. And look at this. Thresh goes in. We're not thinking about where's Ali, where's the jungler. We're just sending it. You know, we have no flash.
So yeah, you know, we have the most deaths in the game after being 3-0 this game, right? So we can definitely understand where the high deaths coming from. I think it's a combination, as you said, compensation, doing too much, probably doing some shocking roams here and there, and just yeah, this threat assessment is definitely obviously the massive problem.
Yeah. Another great example. See how he wasn't contemplating Echo popping back with R, so he missed his E. Another great example of champ specific interactions. You know, you can have the greatest positioning in the world, but if you don't understand how the kits interact, then it doesn't really matter. And Mel, just is really important to note, there are a lot of mid champions in the game, and Mel's one of them, where your level of play, your ability to deal damage scales with game understanding. Because if you think about your kit, your W is it's not about you, it's about understanding of other champions. And how you use your E, right? Whether you use it offensively, defensively, everything, it's about, again, it's how you interact with other champions. And so Mel, as your game knowledge expands and your understanding of other champions expands, you'll start to feel more and more impactful. And remember what I was saying before, Nathan, as well, about if you can stay in combat, you can deal more damage with your R. This is why people find Mel a little bit tricky. Because they can't walk that tightrope.
They don't get the 2 rotations off, so they're missing all that ult damage.
Yeah, exactly right. And they sometimes don't even get any value from their R. Exactly right. And this is where Mel feels so useless. You know, if I'm moving into a big game like this, I've got 99 CS by 18 minutes. I'm still on 1 item. You know, I just feel really useless. And I'm basically relegating myself to just like a, you know, bit of AoE, bit of CC. I'm not really going to be doing that much. But, you know, Mel in the mid game, what I'd be looking at right now is just trying to front to back to the best of my ability, peel back. Hopefully that the Malphite and Echo overdive. I use my peel reactively, and that's all I'm hoping for, really. And this is not a good Leandri second item game. I mean, there's no HP on mid, no HP on jungle. You know, I would much prefer to see a Cosmic Drive second item this game.
HP, Leandri's does percentage health, so you want that against high. I mean, maybe just thinking the Malphite and Alistar.
Yep, maybe. Maybe. I mean, it's not absolutely terrible, but I'm sure there's better items. By the way, he nearly got caught there. Notice how he was the only one on the map again, and he nearly got caught?
Yeah. We're going on suicide missions.
Yeah, we love these suicide missions. Look at this.
So push wave, and then he's literally going to walk up and auto attack.
He was going to walk up. He was going to walk up there.
Again, look at the minimap right now. Look at this.
So yeah, like I really do think that Mel is a champ that can teach you a lot about the game. It teaches you a lot of mage fundamentals.
How to play clean League of Legends.
Yes. You get rewarded for good positioning, good fundamentals, patience, good farm, playing around your teammates' locations, good ability usage. A lot of good mage fundamentals through Mel. So this was like a little bit better. You could tell how he'd been kind of scarred by the Annie before, so you could tell he was kind of shit scared.
Thinking about the kill threat a little bit more.
Yeah, played that fight not bad.
All right, Hit Jew here has finally got his mid tower after all that. Well, after all those deaths trying to hit that tower.
Wait, did he just TP back on the map?
He did, yeah. Is that in the bad TP?
Well, look. Well, you do get mid tower for it. Okay, so it's not too bad because I guess your team is still pressuring. Jin was still bot. Riven's actually pressuring top. And it allows you to get a mid tower. So it's actually not bad. But, you know, something to keep in mind is that it can give you flexibility in the mid game. But in this case, I think it's okay.
And when you say flexibility, it's like you can go to a side lane opposite the objective, like Baron coming up, and you have that more flexibility there.
Especially since Riven doesn't have TP here. You could go bot and then just hold bot, you know, versus the Malphite. But now Jin's having to cover bot, you know, it's just a little bit awkward. But it's all right. Another great example of not using our R properly there.
So what does that mean here? So what's the...
So it goes in, E, Qs, and see how Echo can R?
Yeah. And that blocks the... Your R goes on cooldown and he obviously doesn't take the damage.
Yeah. Or his heals back up, yeah.
Yeah. Champ, yeah, I guess that's just champ interactions.
Yeah, 100%. So look, we've kind of got into an okay position now. We've actually got quite a bit of damage. We've stalled out the game. The game's just elongated naturally. We've racked up a few kills. So we're actually not that bad anymore. Look at this deployment, by the way. See how he passed automatically out of base to bot?
Yes.
Why are we going bot? Look at the wave. The wave's in Narnia. There's nothing happening on bot side. You have no TP anyway. We need to be deploying mid out of base, getting control with our team. And go bot later on when the wave comes out. This is a really, really common mistake. And if you're playing mages like this, you get really punished because you're going to be late. You can't run around the map. You don't have mobility.
Yeah. And this is very similar, I feel, Curtis, to that situation where you didn't go to the wave and you went to the bot.
Yes.
This banana bush here first. Yep. Baron's the next objective. This is what everyone's fighting for.
Yes.
Get here first, you know, and let them walk into you. Get a chunk or whatever. You might be saying, well, Kindred's or whatever there, but, you know, there's nothing to do bot here anyway. Like, this is, you know, Riven's... I mean, look how strong his team is. He can brute force and control areas of the map and let them run into you, right? So the whole mindset approach here is just incorrect.
Yep. And then we realize, I think we get like halfway, I'm like, oh, what the hell am I doing? I got to go mid. So it's just super inefficient pathing. I don't like what he's doing. He's just trying to flank or some shit. He's like coming in from the side. I mean, I'm not a massive fan. I would much prefer to play the front to back. And I didn't. What happened to him? Like he just disappeared. What the hell happened here?
I think he took the lantern. I don't know if that's intentional.
Oh no! I mean,
He loves
it looks
take the lantern
intentional.
into melee range. I think he.
This guy
it's
really
like-
loves the lantern. He's done.
Yeah, I think
He's
it's
done
the
lantern
third
many times.
lantern.
I feel like this Thresh has been his worst nightmare this game. Yeah, and you can tell he's struggling. He is struggling from a positioning perspective. That is definitely not his strong point. He loves positioning, running out of bot, running to bot here. I mean, look,
we've
you
already
can...
give him Baron. I think this is fine.
Okay, yeah, you're trading Baron off. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, very, very greedy here. The enemy have the Baron recall. We have to blow flash, and that's massive, you know.
Once again, we have a habit of on the map hitting wards, hitting towers with our team missing on the map. We're constantly seeing from the enemy's perspective, Mel's just a sitting duck constantly from their vision right now on the bot. I love it. Isn't it cool to see the same mistake like 3-4 times in one VOD? You know, you just see the trends.
Yeah, and really, you know, what I would what I would say to this Mel, what this Mel needs to really work on is growing awareness of where your teammates are. Really calibrate in the map that your LoL states. Where is everyone? You know, really value your farm and resources. It's okay if people die here and there. You can make up the difference in the mid game. And they definitely need to heavily review their deaths. What is it that you didn't understand about the enemy, you know, that champion interaction? And knowing what you know now, what would you do next time?
Right, so this game's pretty much going to be wrapped up here.
Yep.
Obviously, we covered a lot of stuff here. I want to finish off with some final questions here, Curtis. So, I mean, you actually sort of answered the question there, talking about what you would be giving advice to this specific player. But what is just advice? You're picking up Mel. I want to learn Mel. Where should you start? What are the big 20% you should first focus on?
I would say, number one, just timing your trades with last hits, timing your Qs with last hits,
I feel like
hitting E's and Qs. I would say really making sure that you're keeping your gameplay neat and tidy. At the start of your Mel journey, don't worry about winning the game. Just worry about getting good farm and feel out what it's like to get into the mid game with just like a completed item with good farm. Yes, you're going to be missing opportunities. It's okay. Things are going to be exploding everywhere. That's fine. But if you can rock up to maybe a team fight in that mid game and you're farming pretty well, what's going to happen is that you'll be able to feel out, oh, interesting. That's a lot of damage I could pump out there. That's interesting. So that's a really good kind of starting point. And then the only other thing I would say is really in your LoL states, prime your mental stack about what the key threats are and what do you want to use your W for. You know, when I'm playing Mel, I'm always thinking, what are the key abilities that I want to use my W for? So that Alpha before, I was thinking in fights, I'm waiting for the Ornn R. And you see a lot of those fights, I was using my W for the Ornn R every single time. And then I guess the last piece of advice is I want you to limit test with your R. Play around with the damage. Like I actively think, oh, I've got a lot of stacks. I want to see how much damage it does. Just press it. A lot of the time, because the R damage, a lot of people tunnel vision of getting the execute, but like I do want people to just feel out how much the R does. So if you're in a team fight and you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get any more damage off, just press it, make some baseline observations. You need to develop a feel for how much damage the R does because you don't know unless you press it. And a lot of people overhold it, I would say, the R.
So talk to me a bit about your learning journey of Mel, Curtis. Is there... so obviously Mel sort of went through some changes. You know, she was like really OP at the beginning or whatever it is, and people sort of worked out the build or whatever. I mean, you're a mage player, like pretty much, you know, you're mid lane, you're very good at mages your whole career. Did you have any struggles learning Mel? Was there like an aha moment where Mel sort of clicked for you?
Yeah, no, Mel actually was not intuitive for me. If I'm going to be, it's actually one of the few mages I've ever played that it didn't click. And the reason it's actually a great question because Mel didn't click for me because I couldn't wrap my head around the R. It didn't make sense to me because if you think about a mage, right? Traditionally, a lot of mage ability. Think about like a Syndra R, a Victor R, a Lux R. Any of these abilities, it's like very clear where the damage comes from. It's like I hit my Lux R or I don't. I throw out my Victor R. I point and click my Syndra R. It's just like a very clear source of damage. Mel's R is so unique because you're rewarded for simultaneously staying in combat, getting more stacks. You're rewarded for landing your abilities because the more people you hit with your abilities, the more stacks you get. So if you throw your E through like 3 people, you get a shit ton of stacks and it'll do a lot of damage. And the whole idea that the stacks wear off, so if you overhold it, it goes off. It's like it didn't make sense to me. I genuinely didn't know.
I even asked you here, like, how does the Mel R work? Like, what's the?
It's hard to explain. It's a very weird ability. So what I found is I did no damage because I was playing Mel without an R. So this is what, in a roundabout way, why I love Seraphs and HP on Mel, because it allowed me to get a little bit more aggressive.
Multiple rotations.
Stay in the fight. That's why the 2 most important stats for me on Mel are haste and HP. Durability and haste. That's why I love all these, like Cosmic Drive. It's such a good item, or Crypt Bloom now. Like all these items that gives you a shit ton of haste and durability in some way, shape, or form are excellent, because I can stay in combat. I can pump out multiple rotations. I can get, and then with good quality W usage, identifying what you need to W and how to use that W properly, that combined together creates this beautiful cake. So the way you want to view it is that there's layers. Layer 1 is understanding how to use your W. Do I use it to reflect something, or do I use it to block damage? Because remember, it has the 2 functionality, the blocking damage and the reflect. You don't have to reflect anything. Sometimes I'll just use it to block damage. So there's that. The second layer is actually landing your abilities, understanding how to land your E and Q properly, the ranges and all that, because the E is a fixed range. And then the third one is combining that with good threat assessment and your abilities to then stay in combat as long as possible. And if you can do all those together, it's not a 1 + 1 = 2 scenario. It's a 1 + 1 = 3. You get max, you get a lot of return. And this is why you will get rewarded for champion mastery on Mel. And she has a very high skill cap in team fighting and skirmishing. I think team fighting and skirmishing is extremely high skill cap. The skill floor is low, skill cap very high.
And last question here, sort of be a bit of a Mel salesman here, Curtis. Why should people play Mel mid lane specifically? I guess this is also, a lot of stuff here applies to Mel bot lane. Why should people play Mel? What sort of type of player should be playing this champion?
I think Mel is one of the most underrated mages currently in the game. Straight up. It's a champ that I recommend to people of all ranks. If you're low-elo in bronze and silver, it's a great introductory mage. If you're in platinum and emerald looking for a mage, like a solid mage, it's great. The reason I highly recommend Mel is because it's very it's independent. Like, you can minimize in a hard matchup, or you can shit on a low range matchup. And I would say that because of the skill cap, you will get rewarded for a lot of mastery. So if you put in that time and effort, you will get bang for buck value from an LP perspective. And it's just fun. It's just a really, really fun and satisfying kit. I'm going to be perfectly honest. Like, just nothing beats a really perfect reflect, or just getting a super high value E and AoE into an R, or it's just a very satisfying kit to use. And if picked in the right situation, it can feel like one of the most broken gems of the game.
Awesome. Well, I've learned a lot about not just Mel, but also how to play mages in League of Legends. Any last words, comments, shout-outs? Is there anyone from Mid Lane Academy that you've been working on with Mel?
There's a lot of Mel players I've converted, and they're getting pretty insane results. Last thing I'll say is, if anyone's interested in streamlining their Mel journey, we've got a really awesome Mel guide in the MLA. You guys can check it out. Highly recommend in the Mid Lane Academy. But outside of that, shout out to the Mel gamers and in the MLA, and if you're interested, check it out.
All right, that's it for our episode, guys. We'll see ya on our next champion challenger to Emerald versus Emerald series.